Hello and welcome to the first of these videos related to the ICC World T20 that has kicked off just the last week in India. We're in that stage where the associate nations are playing right now to join the big boys in the Super 10 stage that kicks off on the 15th of March when India takes on New Zealand. As of now, it appears that Bangladesh and Zimbabwe are favorites to go into the Super 10 stage. We're not going to focus too much in this video today on what the associates are doing, but we'll be looking forward to the two groups in the Super 10 stage and how the teams are lined up. But before we get into that, just a few general notes on the T20 format in general and the World Cup in particular. T20 is perhaps the greatest equalizer out of all of cricket's formats. The shorter the format, the more condensed the game, the more the chance that a single individual performance can actually end up changing the outcome of the match. That's the reason you see so many upsets and a much more even distribution of wins and losses between the different test playing nations in T20. It's perhaps also the reason why no nation has won the World Cup more than once, and why even a team like Australia has often struggled in this format. A lot of their strengths, like strong throwing arms, good fielding, depth in batting, tends to get negated in T20, where you have just about 120 deliveries to play, and individual acts of brilliance can often overcome larger team limitations. It's probably the reason why West Indies, with just Gale at the top, are always a threat, or why South Africa, who have been so consistent across the one-day format, also haven't walked away with silverware in the World Cup T20s so far. So as we get ready, keep that in mind. Take the predictions with a pinch of salt, because T20 is the most difficult format to predict, and on any given day, the experts can get it wrong much more than perhaps in Test cricket or one-day cricket for that matter. Right, let's look ahead to Group 1, the easier of the two groups in the World Cup so far. Most likely Zimbabwe are going to qualify from the associate playing stage into this group. The rest of the teams involve England, South Africa, Sri Lanka and West Indies, who are already there. And let's go ahead and take a look at the strengths and the vulnerabilities of each of these teams. So we'll begin with Sri Lanka, and in my opinion, the winners of the last World Cup are perhaps the weakest team in this group as of now. I'll be very honest, I don't have a lot of hopes from Sri Lanka in this World Cup. They've not had a good time over the last 12 to 18 months, ever since Jayawardene has gone out of the game, Sangakkara has retired, they've lost at home, they've lost away. You saw them at the Asia Cup where they were fairly tepid in their games against India, Pakistan and even Bangladesh. A lot comes down to the fact that the new generation of batsmen has not really taken up the mantle sufficiently and have not displayed the consistency that you saw from the likes of Sangakkara and Jayawardene. Dilshan's there at the top, but he almost looks like a shadow of his best. There's Angelo Matthews, and I think the team revolves around him and has just leaves too much up to him. He has to bowl, he has to lead, he has to bat and bail them out of difficult situations. A couple of good players coming in there, the likes of Sriwardene, who've shown their mettle in crisis, but I think the finished product is still a fair time away, and it's going to be a difficult time for Sri Lanka in this World Cup. They've got good bowlers. There's Malinga, Dushan Chamira is really fast and pacey and is troubled batsman all over. Rangana Herath is honest and always a threat, but there's only so much that the bowling can do for you, and I don't think Sri Lanka have the consistency in the batting to be a threat, especially to teams like England and South Africa in this World Cup. I'm going to stick my neck out. I don't really see Sri Lanka progressing out of this group here into the semi-final stage. Let's look at West Indies, and after all their troubles and contractual negotiations and differences, which always seems to happen and be in the background in West Indian cricket, they're finally here with a team that you look at and kind of wonder if there are big gaps in there. There's no Celine Narayan, there's no Kieran Pollard, and I think those are the two things that might just impact West Indies' performances, whether they're able to go forward or not. Gale's there at the top and he remains a big threat, but if you look down the rest of the batting, there's really not much going. Samuels has been kind of off color over the last year or so. There's Ramdeen, there's Holder who can contribute a little bit, and some of the other players don't really have the strong T20 credentials as such. Down the order, they'll have Russell and Sammy to wield the long handle, but the question mark is going to be if that's going to be enough. The bowling really lacks bite, in my opinion, and with Narayan not there, they really don't pose a credible threat. Perhaps the West Indies can cause an upset or two. I think they'll get the better of Sri Lanka, but they're going to run into two really high quality teams in the group, which is England and South Africa, and I'm not fancying their chances of getting out of this group. Who knows? They've surprised people before. They won the 2012 World Cup out of nowhere. I don't think the chances of that happening again are really very strong for the West Indies this time. Right, let's look at England. And for a change, you wouldn't expect this, but England come into this World Cup with a really good limited overs side, and I have the feeling that the whole culture of playing limited overs cricket is beginning to change in England, and you can see that in the form of this team. They haven't really got great results to show for it, but you can see in terms of the personnel that they're shaping to be a really good squad. They're led well by Ian Morgan, who on his day can be a great finisher. They've got great batsmen at the top. Hales is ideally suited. Alex Hales is ideally suited as an opener in T20. Joe Root is very, very consistent. They've got Jason Roy, who's a good, solid batsman in there. And down the order, there's a lot of firepower. Ben Stokes has had a great season. Joss Butler is really threatening in the T20 format. But I'll tell you what distinguishes England in this World Cup and what might play into their hands given the conditions. This is March in India. The pitches have had a lot of wear and tear over the season. The cricket season is almost coming to an end, and you can expect that even though it's going to be 20 over games, the spinners are going to come into play. And England have two spinners with whom they've persisted for a fairly long period of time, and they're getting results. That's not something that you've generally seen in English cricket. They've got spinners to come in and they've disposed them fairly quickly. But there's Moeen Ali, who's going to ball his off tweaks, and we all know people tend to underestimate him, but he picks up wickets. And then there's Adil Rashid with his leg breaks, and England have displayed remarkable patience between those two. And they did a good job when they toured UAE and defeated Pakistan in the one days and the T20s. And I think that's going to be the differentiator for England. I think they have the batting as well as the bowling depth to get out of this group and get into the semi-finals. Who knows, on their day, if the spinners bowl well and Stokes and Butler tonk a few, they might end up going into the finals as well. But England are definitely a team to watch out for. I think they're going to do much better than what they have in some of the previous World Cups. The last team in the group is South Africa, and they possess an abundance of talent for the T20 format. Sometimes you look at that team roster and you wonder whether they're so spoiled for choices and how many players will eventually end up getting an opportunity to make an impact in those 20 overs. There's Amla at the top, there's A.B. de Villiers, who's the X factor. He can change a game completely on his own. Du Plessis is going to lead them. He's a very consistent batsman in this format. There's Duminy down below, along with Miller's hitting power. And now they have Chris Morris, who's been the biggest buy in IPL this season, and David Visa, and they've shown in the recent series against England that they can wield the long handle at the end of the game, and they can recover games when they look like being lost. Imran Tahir is there. He's always going to pick you wickets in the T20 format. He's expensive, but he's a wicket taker. He's going to play all the games, especially on these pitches. And then they have Rabada and Steyn and Morkel, who are probably going to round up that team. South Africa can, at best, be their own worst enemies in many cases. I don't think they're going to have a problem getting out of this group. The mettle of the team when it comes to knockouts is probably the only thing that might stop them. It'll be interesting to see who they end up playing in the semi-finals, though. They've done well in India when they came for the T20 series, so they've shown that they can handle these conditions. It's really going to come down to how they operate and handle the pressure on the big day, but I definitely see them getting out of this group and getting into the semi-finals. Right, that was my take on Group 1. I think England and South Africa are well positioned to get out. I don't see West Indies, Sri Lanka and Zimbabwe, who might qualify into this group, really making much progress. Next time around, we're going to look at Group 2, which is the group of death in this World Cup, and where you have another set of really strong test playing nations. Thank you for watching.